Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, do you want to do roll call?
President Reese, members of the board, please let the record show that we have all 5 board members present tonight.
Thank you. And we are going to have our moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we're going to go on to the approval of the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda as it's presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. We will go on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Thomason?
President Reese, members of the board, tonight we start our points of pride in the most exciting part of our board meetings. And so at this time, I would like to invite Michelle Reese to go ahead and invite up our first points of pride school for this year. Michelle.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomason, President Reese, Vice President Kaler, members of the board, and our community. Tonight, I would like to first welcome up Bridges Principal Jeff Bickle to recognize members of his community.
Thank you, thank you. President Reese, members of the board, Dr. Thomason, cabinet, thank you for this opportunity to recognize our top people at Bridges. So I'd like to first of all invite Mr. Seiferth up to the front. So Mr. Seiferth teaches 6th grade math at Bridges. And I could probably talk for about 20 minutes about how amazing he is. I've known Eric for close to a decade now, which is hard to believe. We actually student taught together, and then he ended up getting hired in Higley. I got hired in Higley, and then along the way we coached together, and I had the opportunity to bring him over to Bridges to teach math at one point. And I jumped at it because I knew the kind of individual he is. He is an unbelievably hard worker. He is so dedicated to his students, to the profession in general. In fact, so much that he has 2 kids that are also teachers in Higley, Chelsea, who teaches at Higley High, and Connor, who teaches at Williamsfield. And better yet, I get to call him my friend because we've known each other for so long, and I love everything about him. I mean, you're such a genuine guy. You're so kind-hearted, and you give your all each and every day. Little fun fact, Eric tutors his students every single morning. He gives up every morning to bring kids in and help them out. So I'm talking like 7:30 in the morning, he's there helping kids. And he also tutors Thursday afternoons. So he is beyond dedicated, and I can't say enough good things about you. I could go on and on. So I'm gonna end it there. But thank you all, thank you for all that you do for our school, for our students, and as a friend. So. Hang on, Eric. Introductions. Go ahead and introduce your family.
My family? So I have my wife, my beautiful wife Heather is here tonight. Yeah, she deserves a big round of applause. My in-laws, Chris Hosick and Judy Hosick. Yeah. And then Jeff mentioned my daughter, Chelsea. She teaches history at Higley High School, and my son, Connor, teaches, is it chemistry now? I think chemistry at Williamsfield. He's taught math and chemistry, yeah, math and science. So very proud of them. They're amazing. So, and I just love teaching at Bridges and working for Jeff. It's awesome. It's a dream.
All right, Molly Folkman, come on up. So Molly is our support staff. Point of pride. Congrats. Fun story about Molly. I was in Maui over the summer, and I'm sitting in the airport waiting for our flight, and here comes Molly with her family waiting for their flight. And so I got to witness Molly's family in action, and she has a big family, and they laugh. So honestly, though, it was amazing to watch you and your family in action because you could just feel the love and the warmth radiating throughout it. And that is indicative of you in our school. You are so caring, so passionate about what you do, and you pour your heart into giving your best for our students. And we are so thankful for that. Miss Wilson's here today for you too. So Molly works very closely with Miss Wilson, and Miss Wilson made the comment that I hope I can retire with Miss Molly, and we're not going anywhere. We're going to work together forever. So, yes, perfect. We'll keep you as long as you want to stay. So thank you for all that you do. You're so appreciated, and yeah, thank you. All right.
Mr. Berg said I didn't have to talk, but I have my husband, Darren Folkman, here, and two of our 4 daughters, Jordan and Taylor.
Thank you. Oh, Eric.
Soraya Olson, you want to come up, please? So it is my pleasure to introduce Soraya to you guys. She is one of our outstanding students at Bridges. She's a member of our student council. She does a lot with student council. She reads our morning announcements. She's making sure that when the kids come down there, a lot of times there's 4th graders. She's going out of the way to making sure they feel very comfortable and making sure that they do a great job. So she is a oppressive young lady. She is a role model at Bridges by always demonstrating respect to her teachers and other students. Soraya's hard work and dedication drives her academic success. She continually sets a positive example for her classmates by embracing academic challenges and working well with all the other students. We are honored to have students like Soraya at Bridges Elementary School. Bridges is thriving because of her leadership and her encouraging character traits. I am so excited to see what the world is what she has to offer to the world. So thank you, Soraya. Do you want to introduce your family?
So these are my parents. This is Brett and this is Shireen, and they take me on all my fun adventures, and I have the most fun with them. And then this is my little brother, Sam, and he is the most supportive brother anyone could ever ask for.
And our volunteer, Point of Pride, was not able to make it today, but Corey Ammer is our PTO president, and she has done wonderful things for our school this year. We are so thankful for her.
Tonight, we also have Points of Pride from Cortina Elementary School and Principal Kelly Papke.
All right, good evening, everyone. All right, this is always such a special honor. I actually prepared something that I'm going to read off of. So we're going to start off with our certified staff member, Miss Michelle Steely. So Michelle is a first grade teacher at Cortina, and we are just so proud to call her a member of our Tiger family. She is not only an amazing teacher, the things that she does for the kids and the caring heart that she shows towards her kids each and every day, but she also impacts kids far beyond that. She is involved in so many different ways on our campus. She leads our student council. She is a member of our IPT team, which is a team that supports our students and our teachers. She is a member of our kindness committee, and she's just one of those people who, through everything that she does, you see her heart and soul. And she's the kind of teacher who, when you have, a student who has maybe some challenges, she has that soft heart where she says, you know what, we're going to make this happen. We're going to make this child successful, and whatever it takes, she's willing to do it. And so we're just so proud to call her a member of our family, and just that dedication, that commitment that she puts in each and every day is just priceless. So thank you for all that you do. And our classified member is Sandra Yamas. Miss Sandra is a crossing guard, but that's not the only role that she plays on our campus. She, her main job is obviously to cross students safely through the crosswalk, but she's also has that special job of making sure that each and every morning that she sees them, she's the first person that they see, she's the last person that they see. So she has that opportunity to help get their day off on the right foot and just make sure that, they're in a good place. She's the kind of person that will get to know them by name. She gets to know the parents. She becomes familiar just with their little unique personalities. And if she notices something that maybe is a little different, she takes that time to stop and talk with them and, ask them about their day. And she takes that extra moment to show that she cares. And it just is something that parents notice, our staff members notice, and she's just one of those people that is just so irreplaceable, and we just love having you as a member of our staff, so thank you. Okay, next is our volunteer, Mr. Tim Gershikov. Okay, what can I say about Tim? Tim is involved in everything. So Tim is a member of our PTO. He is in charge of our Dad's Club. He is a member of our site council. And he's just always, you can tell just by seeing him come up here, he always has a cheery disposition. He is willing to help with anything. There's no project that is too big. Whatever it takes, he's like, we've got this. We're going to do it. What do we need to do? And he just starts planning and putting teams together to make it happen. He loves our school and is just always looking at ways to make everyone's experience the best that it can possibly be. Whether it's a PTO event, whether it's a Dad's Club, he's organizing our Make a Difference Day And I can tell that this is probably going to be our best one yet, just by the planning that's been taking place. So to close, I just want to say that it's people like Tim who make that collaboration between the school and our community. That's what makes it tick. That's what makes us the wonderful community that we are. So thank you for all that you do, all the time, all the love, all the care that you put into what you do for our school. Thank you so much. All right, and last but not least is our student, Connor Moriarty. All right, Mr. Connor. Connor is a 6th grade student at Cortina, and I've known Connor since he was just a little teeny tiny guy, and I've seen him grow so much, not just physically, because he's going to be taller than me soon, but he has grown in so many other ways, just academically, socially. He has just become an incredible, incredible young man. His zest for life and his eagerness to help others is truly what makes him shine. He's an amazing kid. He is so enthusiastic about learning everything that he does. He's a member of our robotics team. He's on ambassadors, so I get to work very closely with him. He's a band student. When you come to Cortina, you might see him greeting kids, as they're coming through the drop-off lane, saying good morning, helping to, just bring a little cheer to their day. He helps with peer mediation during recess, and he has volunteered with us at Feed My Starving Children. He's just a wonderful, wonderful kid, and I just look forward to seeing him continue to grow and continue to shine. So thank you, Connor, for being you. Oh, yes, you guys get to talk now. I know you were looking forward to this. Connor, I'm going to let you start.
My family members are my mom, my dad, and my little Kenzie bug. Yeah, she's just the cutest little thing ever. I remember when I was in the hospital and I kept on bouncing around. My dad kept on saying, "Stop!" Like, Connor, stop it. I'm like, I want my sister now. Love you, Kenzie.
Oh. Hi. I brought with me my wife, Molly. She's over there. Wave. All right. My son, Elijah, who is in the 5th grade at Cortina. My daughter, Chloe, who is in the 4th grade. And my other daughter, oh, there she is, Claire, who is in the 1st grade.
Hi, so tonight my husband was able to make it, and 3 out of 5 of my children, my sister and my brother-in-law. And I just do want to say very briefly that working as a staff member under a principal such as Ms. Papke and Ms. Michelson is a beautiful thing because they're wonderful leaders, and it's not hard to show love when you're seeing it set from above coming all the way down because they're amazing leaders. And I'm just so happy to be a part of Cortina.
I brought my husband, Todd Steely, with me tonight. I've had 2 girls that I've been blessed to be able to go through Cortina and be right beside me, so it's quite an honor to watch them grow. And it's an honor to work at Cortina. We've got a great staff there, so it is very easy to be the best that you can when you've got great role models.
your first grade. Thank you. Thank you for showing.
I love it. There's no better place to be.
It's so fun.
It is. It really
Scary
is.
sometimes, but fun.
Yes.
Thanks for all you do.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have our Business Partners Breakfast, and that's at 7:30 a.m. on October 16th. Our next governing board retreat is October 19th on a Saturday at 8 a.m., followed by our governing board meeting on October 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Those are the upcoming events we have for the Higley School Board.
Thank you. That was nice to start off our year of awards. Very fun. All right, we will go on to board comments. Last night we had the Gilbert Community Excellence Awards, and several board members were in attendance, and we had representatives from Centennial, Cooley Middle School, and Sassaman Middle School that received awards, so that's always a good time. Who else has board comment?
I just want to add, President Reese, our choir sang too last night, and I got to see the Higley High Choir performance. It was over a week ago, I guess, and they have grown that program. Mr. DeCoste, please, Mr. Fields, keep Mr. DeCoste. He has just grown our program so well over there, and it shows, and he thoroughly wowed us last night, too, at the Gilbert dinner.
All right, you ready for my comments? I got to do the opioid presentation. Was it on Monday? Jen, you're going to have to help me. I don't know. The days are all starting to blend. And it was really an excellent presentation that they put together, and I'm really appreciative of that. And I encourage parents, whenever we have those presentations, to come out and just continue to learn about all the new things, because I did not know all the things that are happening with the opioid crisis that's going on in this country. Also, I got to attend the STEM night. I'm not sure which one it was, HTA. Somebody would have to help me. No. So it was one of the two, and that was excellent. It was before the Williamsfield homecoming game. And then we also got to tour Gateway last week, I think. Was it last week? Okay. All the dates are starting to run, guys. This last 2 weeks before break, we squeeze in a lot of things. And we got to see the technology in the classroom, which was excellent. And it was an excellent way to see the kids actually using the computer carts that we've talked about, and the teachers being able to use the curriculum, and just different pieces that we've approved that we never always get to see. And it was kind of an awesome event just to see those kids hands-on with the technology. So That's all I have, but thank you for all the different things we've gotten to attend.
Any other board comments? No, I just have to agree with Mrs. Kaler. Our choir from Higley High School did an amazing job, and to hear people talk around us, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a high school choir. They were amazing. And so it was nice. All right, then we'll go on to request to speak. Do we have any requests? All right. Then we will go on to our consent agenda. I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
And Ms. Good, I have a question for you. This is just a first read on the policy we have. It's 6.8, and it's policy DJE for our bidding and purchasing procedures. Just wanted to have some conversation. Our superintendent is authorized to approve purchases that are less than $10,000.
That's correct.
And there's been some recent events, not here. Through my thought process, I wanted to have some discussion, see what the thoughts are about, I don't want to say limiting how many transactions. I want to avoid $30,000, $40,000 transaction being done in different phases that are under $10,000 a piece. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but there is already a provision in the procurement rules that dictates that we are not to make multiple series of purchases in order to avoid the procurement rules. So I think that is already taken care of.
Okay, because I was reading through this, and I know it refers to procurement rules, but because that was just one of my concerns.
And that is one of the things that the auditors check pretty carefully. So I think that if we were doing that, we'd get caught.
Okay, I'm not worried about it. I fully trust Dr. Thomason. But as we're reviewing these policies, I just didn't know if it would be something we wanted to consider, so.
Madam President, may I just piggyback on there, please? So, Ms. Good, I know you'll know the answer to this, but this new statute that we're abiding by does or does not apply to charter schools.
I believe that it does not. I think the procurement rules are one of the group of regulations that they are not required to abide by.
Yeah, I was just trying to make a point about our charter schools and the differences between them and the rules that the legislature tends to make up for us that just slow things down. I'm in favor of transparency, but I wish transparency applied to all, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments on any items on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right, so we will go on to our action and information items. Mr. Holland. Our fiscal year 20 annual finance report.
As you warm up, it's nice to see you, Mr. Holland.
Good evening, President Reese, members of the board. Thank you. I am very happy to be back and to be here. Okay. So before we get started this evening, and we get into all of the boring details of numbers as we go through, I would like to start with some fun, interesting facts and a couple of jokes. You might laugh, you might not laugh, but we'll see. Throw me a bone. Okay. So the first one is, what do you call a ship full of polite football players? Come on, Amy. A good sportsmanship. Ha ha ha. Okay. So the next one is done between a teacher and a student. So the teacher asks, here is a math problem. If your dad earned $300 a week and he gave your mother half, what should he have? Question mark. Nothing. And one student replies back and says, a heart attack, because he had to give her half. He didn't want to share. So, and then, huh? Oh, mine was a stroke, not a heart attack. It's different. So now this one is kind of a fun fact. It's not really a joke, but so U.S. paper is not actually paper at all. It's made of 75% of cotton and 25% of linen. So one of the comments back was, so think of it this way. So in Ben Franklin's time, people actually repaired torn bills using needle and thread, not tape. So interesting, I didn't realize that. And I brought, it wasn't really in my presentation because we found it later, but actually there's a picture that the U.S. Mint had actually, I'll kind of pass it around so you can just see. So the largest bill that was ever made. But it was never put into circulation. It was only used between the Mint and the Treasury Reserve Banks. So interesting. So with that, I have to thank my staff, who I charge with every time, hey guys, you got to find me some good jokes. And so thank you very much for all of that.
You know, I just want to clarify, because I've had people ask, why does Mr. Holland always tell jokes, or why do you guys ask for jokes? And I just try and explain nicely that nothing personal. A lot of the stuff he has to go over and the numbers, they're not fun and exciting. And I mean, while you do a great job, it's kind of really dry stuff. So at least we...
And from the finance guy, I agree. So it's always better to let's start with something fun, or at least somewhat fun.
At least enlightening us a little bit beforehand. Thanks.
Right. Yes, ma'am. So we will get through the fun stuff to get to the dry stuff. Yay. Okay, so now starting with our presentation. So good evening, President Reese, members of the board, Dr. Thomason, cabinet, distinguished Higley community. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I have a short presentation for you, kind of summarizing our annual financial report for our 18-19 school year. However, again, before we start with some of the dry details, let's kind of talk about some more Higley fun facts. So last year, we had a student enrollment of 13,346 students. We had a total employees of 1,496. We taught 218,357 minutes of instruction. Our payroll department issued 36,170 payroll checks for a total of a little over $76 million. We served over 777,000 meals, and we drove a little over 722,000 miles. So we stayed quite busy. So in essence, when you're looking at that, we actually traveled approximately 28.9 miles around the world last year. So busy, busy. So thank you to our transportation department for all that you do. Next, okay, so looking at our budget, our 18-19 expenditures as a whole, we spent a little over $126 million last year, starting with our maintenance and operation, or our M&O budget. We spent a little over $73.1 million. Our classroom site fund, or our Prop 301, those funds are used specifically for our teachers. There, we spent a little over $6.2 million, excuse me. Our unrestricted capital, we spent a little over $9.2 million. Our federal and state projects, we had a little over $3.1 million in federal and state expenditures. Our trust account, which is for our medical insurance, that we spent a little over $7.5 million. And then out of our special cash accounts, a little over $7.1 million. Some of those cash accounts, they make up our community ed, our HCPA, so our Higley Center for Performing Arts. We have our auxiliary operations and tax credit, as well as our gifts and donations. What does that look like from a percentage or a pie chart perspective? So to kind of give you an idea, again, we spent a little over $126 million. 58% of that came from our maintenance and operation budget. 5% of that came from our classroom site fund. 7% of that was from our unrestricted capital. 2% of that was from our federal and state projects. 6% of that was for our medical insurance. An additional 6% came from our special cash accounts, all of those that we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Now let's look specifically more in how the expenditures broke down for our maintenance and operation, our M&O budget. So we started the 18-19 school year with a budget a little over $76.8 million. We spent that $62.4 million on salaries and benefits, little over $3.7 million on utilities, a little over $1.2 million for supplies, a little over $2.7 million for other purchased services. And I know I do get some questions from time to time, what exactly is included in some of those particular categories. So for the purchased property is for repairs and maintenance and rental of equipment. The purchased professional and technical services, that's employee training, audit and legal type of expenses, technical services, student and other type of expenses. So one of those in particular is Smart Schools, which is a vendor that we use here at the district to provide all of our substitutes when needed for our teachers. So as I mentioned, we spent a little over $73.1. So we have a carryover balance of a little over $3.6 million. That $3.6 million will be used to help cover costs starting into the new 19-20 school year. So keep in mind, it'll be help cover the cost for the salary and benefit increases for staff, as well as to be able to continue the curriculum adoption that we started in the 16-17 school year, some technology updates, as well as our middle school lease payments. Again, that in 18-19, that payment was a little over $4.2 million. And next year in 19-20, it will be going to $4.4 million. Again, as I've said previously, which will continue until 2053, unless the district is able to come up with, pull a rabbit out of a hat or someplace to come up with the money to pay those off. One thing, though, we strive in the finance department as a good business practice, and since our enrollment numbers tend to fluctuate, as we know, we try to encumber $3.5 million each year at the beginning of the year so that we know when we get to the end of the year, we'll at least have that much money to carry over into the next school year to help with those startup type of expenses. Because as you have heard me say in the past, you know, the state, when you build your budget, you build it based off of 100%. But the state is going to say, okay, you get 75% of that to operate your entire year. And we're going to keep 25% of that, which we will give you in the next school year after we finalize everything and do our statewide recalculation. So, which usually comes around the end of October, November timeframe. So as you can see, we're already several months into the school year. So that 3.5 does help us at least continue forward until those additional resources become available.
Mr. Holland?
Yes, sir.
For those new board members, can you explain the TANs and that we haven't had to use TANs since you've become our CFO?
So TANs is referred to, it's tax anticipation notes, or TANs. So you would utilize TANs or have to register warrants with the treasurer's office when you have a situation where you have a cash flow issue at your district. So with the state, the state still bases your budget off of your 100-day enrollment. They'll figure out, okay, this is how much your budget is for the entire year. But your enrollment each month drives how much your cash payment is going to be for the next month. So enrollment monthly drives cash, 100-day drives budget as a whole. But if you get into a situation where you run out of cash at the treasurer's office, you have to register warrants or you have to use tax anticipation notes. As Dr. Thomason mentioned, I'm very happy to promote, and acknowledge that since I've been here at the district, starting my 16-17 school year, the district has not had to utilize TANs one time. We don't even apply for them anymore. Typically, what districts will do is they will apply for the TANs in the beginning, but there's a fee associated with being able to put that cash into your bank. And since we encumber money to help us with that, then we don't have to rely on that. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yes,
The short version is that we don't have to go out for a payday loan.
True. Okay. Next, let's look at the classroom spending report that the Auditor General puts out each year. So this is a report that the Auditor General does where they compare our district to how the statewide as a whole spends their dollars, as well as our peer districts, those being districts, of course, that are similar in size and enrollment. Also, you'll note that the expenditures or percentages reported here are for the 17-18 school year, because the report for 18-19 will not become available until March of 20. Does that make sense? Okay. So for classroom instruction, you'll notice statewide, the percentage was 54%. Our peers spent 53.48%, and here at Higley, we spent 57.81% of our money in the classroom for our teachers and our students. Next, I know everybody always looks at, okay, how much money is being spent on administration? So statewide, the percentage was 10.37. Our peers were 10.39. And for the district, what's presented here is 12.89, which appears to be why, and the question, why is our admin so much higher than the state or our peers? So what I'd like to explain is for that particular year, our medical insurance, which was a $3.5 million payment, that expense was coded to the governing board account code. Since the governing board is responsible for the district as a whole, that entire expense was put into that particular object code or function. Now, typically, that expense should have been spread out across all of the functions and object codes, which would be consistent with our salaries and benefits, how they're actually charged out. So if we had been able to fix that, unfortunately, when it was discovered, the Auditor General would not allow you to go back and make any corrections. But if we were able to fix that, our admin that year would have been 10.1%. So there's the detail of why that is.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
For our community, can you define administration?
So administration includes fiscal services, purchasing, warehouse, human resource, planning, research and development, public information, IT. So all of those overarching type of categories that affect the district as a whole. Yes, sir. Next, we look at facilities and plant operations. So the statewide was 11.91. Our peers were 12.17, and here at Higley we were at 11.05. What's included in that? You have maintenance and operation of our buildings and grounds, as well as safety and security here for the district. You look at our food service, again, looks a little lower, but keep in mind that we outsource our food services. So it's not really would never be a large expense for our budget. Student support and instructional support. Everybody wants to know about those as well. Again, hot topics. So student support, statewide was 8.35. Our peers were 8.07. And here at Higley, we were at 5.6. Those categories or those expenses include attendance, social work, guidance, health, psychological, speech and pathology, ideology, and OT and PT type of expenses. For instructional support, you see statewide was 5.56, our peers were 6.36, and here at Higley it was 5%. Those type of expenses that are included in that category, you have improvement of instruction and curriculum development, instructional staff training, library and media type of services, as well as instruction-related technology. Again, one thing that I just want to point out with this whole report, if you look at a big picture ticket, here at Higley, we focus on trying to put as much money as possible back into our classrooms for our students and our teachers. So that's why we put the majority of our expenses would be 57.81% in the classroom, not necessarily these other categories, which, yes, do provide support, but the money's not really in the classroom. Does that make sense? Questions on that at all? Okay, thank you. Next, let's look at our classroom spending report, or our Prop 301. Our Prop 301 dollars come in and are distributed into 3 different funds. So you have Fund 11, which is used for base salaries. You have Fund 12, which is used for performance pay, and then you have Fund 13, which is used for other type of expenses. For here at Higley, we utilize Fund 11 and 13. These funds are used specifically for our teachers only, and these funds are paid out twice a year. So the teachers receive a check in December, right before winter break, and then we issue the second check in January, right before we leave for the summer. Performance pay, as I mentioned, out of Fund 12, that is paid out once a year at the end of the school year, so this year was paid out in June of 2019. I mentioned Fund 13 being other, so what exactly is other? Other is those funds are utilized for additional teachers, leadership stipends, and department chair supplementals, just to give you an example of a few of those type of expenses. You'll notice we started the year adding all those together with a little over $3 million. We brought in a little over $6.2 million. However, we spent more than we brought in based off of revenue, so we spent a little over $6.2 million, ending the year with a little over $3 million. So pretty much we started just a little less, we ended the year just a little less than what we had started with. So everything that came in did go right back out to our teachers.
Mr. Holland,
Yes, sir.
if I may, I just want to make two small points. One is that Fund 11 in the base salary, that does not, Ms. Martin, show up on our salary schedule. It's an additional thing. So just for people that are interested in working for Higley, I know that we sort of separate that out, but it does end up being that they make more. So it's, you want to speak about that, or did I know I didn't say that very well.
Certainly, President Reese, members of the board, Mr. Glover. So here at Higley, what we do, we call it our classroom site portion in terms of that Fund 11. And so we separate them into 2 payments. One happens in December and the other one happens in June. And so our teachers get it separate. It's not put on their base, but it is additional dollars. So as Mr. Holland mentioned, when you look at Fund 11, and then you look at performance pay for Fund 12. For this school year, at the completion of all of it, it'll be a total of $6,500, $3,100 for that Fund 11, and $3,500 for the pay per performance part.
Right, so just to say this back another way, so if somebody was looking to start at $40,000, really, if they did a good job and did all the things they were supposed to, they could be at $46,500, which is great.
That is correct.
And so
Okay.
there are some districts that put the classroom site money or the Prop 301 into the base, and so it's buried in there. So when you're trying to compare base salary to base salary, it looks like Higley's base salary is lower than a neighboring district's salary. But in reality, when you take our base salary and then you add on our classroom site and the other additional funding that is available to them, it does bring our salaries to be very comparable.
Right, so I wanted to make that point because sometimes I'm out and I see people and if we want to attract people. The other thing I want to just ask you, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but are we keeping a balance of over $3 million? We're just carrying that balance?
Well, remember, Mr. Glover, so the concern was for many years as to, we didn't know exactly when that was going to end. Plus, we never know exactly, based off of our enrollment, what our budget is going to be like. So there's many times as we start the year, we may say, okay, we're going to hire 20 teachers, for example, but then it comes back and we need to hire 50 teachers. So by having the resources available out of this Fund 13 does help us be able to meet those additional student needs.
Well, okay, I get that, but $3 million to carry over, that just can we talk more about that? Another time, it just seems like we could put that, if that's just kind of sitting there and we never really use it, we could put, it was intended for teachers, so.
Correct, but also, Mr. Glover, one of the reasons why we don't put it into the base is the situation whereas if, for example, we have to start making cuts, right? Because say, for example, our override doesn't pass, for example, or the economy goes down. Rather than trying to have to start making salary cuts, this is another revenue source that allows us to keep the number of teachers in our classrooms to meet our needs. So again, I can't necessarily speak and say why we have $3 million. That's just how we've been functioning or operating here at the district, planning for just in case.
And if something were to happen and the government did not decide to give us the 301, we would have that extra padding, correct? That's why we're saving it?
Right, it wouldn't be something that would go back.
Right. So we would hold that and still be able to pay out of that fund, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Also, by having that additional revenue, Mr. Glover, excuse me, the district has been able to increase those percentage or portions every single year since I've been here, which is not the same with some of our other peer districts or surrounding districts.
I know I'm giving you heartburn here, but I don't mind having, a little safety net, but it just, if you're only taking in 6.2 million and you already have 3 in reserve, that's a pretty hefty savings to just have sitting there is all. That's all. Anyway, we can move on.
I think that can be a discussion at some point. I think we're all also waiting for the other shoe to drop, like they keep talking about the economy. But I just wanted to point out how you had mentioned for Fund 13 that all of our new teachers get mentor teachers, and those mentor teachers in the hold on, it's here. Department chairs. Right. They all receive stipends and things like that, and that helps us from that fund, correct? So correct. We have grade level, we have department chairs for teachers who have more responsibilities, for us to be able to provide them a stipend for their additional work and additional time. It comes out of those funds.
Yes, that's correct.
For all of our mentor teachers and things like that, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So, and I certainly appreciate that. I know that not every district with their new teachers get a mentor teacher, and they don't all get additional stipends for doing, department chairs and things like that. So I really appreciate that.
So, Mr. Glover, one more thing to keep in mind is that when we built our budget last year, we built it based off of a projected enrollment increase of 1%. As I mentioned to you when we did our May revision, we realized that 1% increase in December. However, unfortunately, every month thereafter, our enrollment dropped, every single month. When I brought to you a May revision in April, we were utilizing an ADM at that time of 12,100. When we got to May, it was 12,098. So that's what we built our budget on for this year. However, what we ended the year, unfortunately, was even lower at 12,070. So every time our ADM drops, that means thousands of dollars go away. But that also means that our payroll, where we gave everybody, all employees, an increase, and as well as increased expenses last year, that means that we have to come up with those funds somewhere else because now that revenue is not going to come in. So to give you kind of an idea, if you remembering back to the carryover when we started the 18-19 school year, our carryover was $5.5 million. Of that, 3.5 of that we had encumbered to make sure we had, right? Now going into this year, if you remember, I told you our carryover number is going to be $3.6 million. 3.5 of that we had already encumbered. So in essence, in reality, we only had $100,000 left to carry over, so we spent about $2.1 million more. So again, if our enrollment does not continue to increase, or if it does and it goes down, this pot of money would have to be something that would help be able to continue those salary increases and stuff for our teachers. And again, it's not just for additional teachers, but it may be for teacher supplies. Whatever is needed in the classroom, those funds can be utilized for. Does that help?
Mr. Holland, just real quick too, and I completely hear Mr. Glover. Also, based on what we anticipate to spend in our performance pay, and what we do spend could be different. And maybe based on our budget, what we anticipated, maybe we had staff members who left and moved, or for whatever reason didn't qualify for that performance pay. And then that creates a carryover as well, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So not everybody starts out with it, but they may not necessarily realize that entire amount or any of that amount based on the performance for that year. Any more questions on that one? Okay. Next, let's look at our unrestricted capital. So for our 18-19 school year, our capital budget was a little over $22.4 million. So keep in mind, though, when we were talking about capital when we do our budget, remember that the state is still not funding capital to 100%. Previously, they would keep 85%. Now it's down to about 65%, so it's getting a little better. But it's still not enough money to be able to meet all of the capital needs for the district. So last year we had to move $10.5 million out of our operating budget over into our capital budget, which is how we got to the 22.4. We actually spent a little over $9.2 million of that last year. Some of those items were being able to continue the curriculum adoption that we had started in 16-17. Our technology updates and refresh. We purchased some additional student desks, chairs, and picnic tables, as well as new uniforms for our students, and some building improvement projects. Some of them, of course, that were in process and not finished last year. So that's part of that $13.2 million carryover. Some of those improvement projects are still ongoing. Plus, we try to plan every single year for that middle school lease payment. So we'll go ahead and try to encumber as much as possible to be able to help meet that for the next year. So for example, I encumbered the $4.2 million of that lease payment to go into 1920 because I know it's going to 4.4. So that's also what makes up that 13.2. Plus, We still have our potential adjacent ways payback with the Auditor General, which I've estimated has been to be around 3.4. So that's also encumbered and rolls over each year until it's finished. So again, it's not like we just didn't utilize the money. A lot of it is encumbered for future type of expenses. So next, we have some other capital funds. We have some bond funding, we had some adjacent ways expenses, as well as some building renewal or some SFB type of expenses. So out of those three different funds, we had a little over $3.3 million worth of expenses last year. Some of those projects included, we purchased some regular and special needs buses. We had our technology refresh. Some of our schools had repair and refresh projects, specifically, for example, like Gateway and HTA. We started construction on the new athletic center for Williamsfield High School. We started with some weatherization projects at 2 of our schools with some assistance from SFB. We had some painting and flooring projects and repairs. Some floor updates took place at HCPA as well as at Higley High School. We purchased 3 marquees last year for HCPA, Gateway, and Cortina, as well as we had some turf installations at Gateway and Centennial, and of course our new football field at Higley High School. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so what I have for you next is just some pictures of some of the different projects that I had just referenced. So here's the new marquee for Cortina, as well as here's the turf that was replaced over at Centennial. The new marquee for Gateway, and the new turf that was placed at Gateway Point. At HCPA, you can see they had some new flooring installed, which to me looks very nice. They did some painting they had of the building, as well as they have their new marquee. We have our Higley High School field. Here's a picture of one of our new buses. Here's a picture of some of the technology. So we purchased, as I mentioned, some new student laptops and technology, some new smart boards for the classrooms. Some other items were some copy machines, telephones, security type of repairs as well. Any questions on any of that? So before I finish, I would like to take just a moment to do a special thanks. I'd like to do a special thanks to Isabel Collis, who is our Director of Finance and my right-hand person. So Isabel helps make everything possible. So while I'm running from meeting to meeting to meeting, she's making sure that everything is getting done in the finance department. So thank you very much for all of your hard work. And I would like to thank all of our finance staff as well for their hard work and tireless efforts throughout the entire year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland, for always making this not completely, always perfectly understandable, but so much better than when I started here looking at all these reports and numbers. Thank you so much for making it that I can grasp it.
You're welcome, anytime. And again, if you have questions, just to call. Thank you.
And thank you to you and your whole staff and getting us all the information and making sure it's updated. We get our monthly reports and we appreciate them just as much as you do, and we know that you're a busy guy and they work behind the scenes, and no offense, but it's behind the scenes that make it all work, so
right. I agree.
You just get to be the one to tell us the jokes. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to do it.
Any other questions for Mr. Holland? Okay.
Okay.
Then I move that we accept the annual financial report and authorize its publication. Again, any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. That motion carries 5-0. All right, so we will go on to 6.8, which is our first, 8.3, which is our first read of a new policy. And this is just the first read of policy IHAMD, which is instruction and training in suicide prevention. So comments, questions? This is only a first read, so.
President Reese, members of the board, I would like the board to know that we did start this training this week, and we have at this time trained all of our administrators at the site levels and some of our district administrators too.
Dr. Thomason, can you tell us who's doing the training, and then how are we going to further train our teachers?
Absolutely. At this time, I'd like to invite up Ms. Jennifer Corey, who does have her manual with her, and she can explain what the plan is for our administration and for all of our teachers.
Okay. Sorry, darling. Different agencies present this material. It's a research-based program. Mental health, first aid. There's for those that work with students, and also there's a version for those that work with adults. And so this is a program that is recommended by the state. I don't know if you're aware, there's a grant through ADE called Project Aware. And so a lot of the agencies are willing to come out and train through the grant. They can only train 30 people at a time. And so it's limited. So it's we did it over 2 days, this past Monday and Tuesday. We had all the site administrators in, and then the school counselors, psychologists, and then also some key district staff. Transportation was included in this. It was a full 8 hours of training. They earn a certificate. And so then from there, what will happen is we will work with a core team with our lead psych, myself, and a couple other key folks, and then create then the presentation and the materials then that will be shown to the entire staff of those that work with the 6th grade on up. And we'll have a couple different versions, we're hoping, eventually, depending on people's roles, to customize it a little bit. But it's all going to be based on the mental health first aid. And then in January and February, we are hoping, then we're planning on bringing in the training again for the adult version for all the supervisors then in the district, which would be even more comprehensive. I believe I've counted up to 90 people, so we'll probably have to do it over 3 days or so. But that's where we're headed.
Mrs. Corey, so if a teacher transfers and they were trained at a different district, they would not have to have this done every year?
Correct.
Just every 3?
It's every 3 years.
Because everybody's kind of using the same expectation. Okay, thank you.
And we will be having at least 1, if not 2, trainers to train. So as we get new staff coming in, part of it though, Ms. Kaler, we will look at bringing in some type of presentation depending on where they were trained, because there's different models out there. There's called self-talk, some different things, youth mental health first aid. We want everybody to have the same language and be on the same page in the district. So that'll be a component too.
I think it's great that we're doing this. I know this was something that was passed down to us and kind of forced for us to do, but I'm excited that we're doing it. And I'm excited that we're having our 6th grade, like the 6th grade principals do it, because I do know that I thought there was a student even in Queen Creek that was a 4th grader.
Could be.
Yeah, that passed away for suicide. So I think that's a really cool thing, since our district has the K6 model. that we're able to even to help those younger kiddos that have some struggles. So
In our
thank you for doing this, because I think it's a big thing.
I heard good. I did my training back in June, but I understood it was a pretty good, a lot of positive feedback from the staff. So that was good. And we've been doing some things with secondary. Teachers have had a presentation every year, and staff. So we're just, it's becoming more comprehensive.
So once staff completes the training, is this book going to be theirs?
Everyone who goes through the 8-hour training, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, everybody gets a book. Anything else?
Anyone have any questions? No, we appreciate that we're getting this done. Mental health and suicide prevention has become very necessary for our staff to identify someone who could potentially be in crisis. So I'm glad to see this policy come into place where we're getting our staff trained. Anyone have any questions? No. So Ms. Good will look for this for a second read and a final approval. All right. Then we will go on to 9.1 future agenda items. We have a list of them. I know we're going to have a dual enrollment and AP update in November. Also an update on our technology for Chromebooks and Google, the use at Power Ranch in November. We're getting ready to go into a work study about field trip policy updates, and we'll have a follow-up to that also in November. We look forward to the high school late start on Wednesdays for an update in December on how that's going. And then we get into the new year with some additional updates. Does anyone else have anything? All right, we are going to go ahead and go into our work study to discuss curriculum instruction and review of field trip procedures, and then we will go into executive session, and our meeting will conclude at the end of executive session there. So we will go into work study now.